Hello, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Survivor Social, the Survivor podcast where we discuss Survivor with a focus on the social elements of the game. My name is David, and since this episode was top tier, we could only have the best of the best with us tonight. So naturally, we have Phil. Phil, how's it going?
Hello, David. I'm doing fantastic. It's a lovely Saturday. We get to talk Survivor. What more can I ask for?
Not much else. Maybe a margarita.
Ooh, but I gotta ask, is there any way that I can negotiate anything? I don't really like the candy that I got. Is that okay?
One more request like that, and I'm gonna stab the bag of rice, and it's just gonna be spilling. So don't go there.
Fair enough.
So we've got a really interesting episode to get into. I might say the best of the season, personally. I don't know what your thoughts are, but we get the auction. The so long awaited auction. Was this everything you wanted it to be and maybe more?
I am so happy. Let me tell you, when I saw the auction come back, and obviously, look, anyone who is a super fan like you and I, probably the folks watching this program right now, the second that you saw the auction in the teaser months ago, you were looking forward to it. So was I surprised that it did come back? No. When I saw the gavel, I knew it was coming back. Was I almost I was surprised by how much joy it brought me, literally seeing it on the episode. I knew it was coming, and I still was just so happy when it actually came to be.
Well, I would have to agree with you there. I think the way that they presented it was also great with all of the moments from the auctions past. And what was your favorite flashback from that compilation?
Ooh, can I ask? I'm not sure if they hit on this, but certainly one of my favorite moments in auction history, probably one of the most memorable, is when Taj got the message from her husband saying that she was going to be able to see him back on the island. That is, I don't know why, it's always stuck out in my head as just like a really fun, sort of impromptu family visit. That's the one that sticks out for me. What about you, David?
Well, before I share my own, I completely agree. Taj's moment is so great because it's not only just there was food at the auction, there was food for the soul, there was family, so unexpected. And I just think about her being like, back to camp, and then she just grabs Jeff's arm. It's an incredible moment. And all the food that came before is great, but that's definitely probably the best moment. But I don't know why I always think back to Jan Gentry throwing her arms up when she realizes that she's won some nachos and margaritas in the one and only tribal auction that I think we ever had in Survivor history. And
Definitely.
Jan Gentry is definitely not someone I think that they would throw in a flashback, and I'm really glad that they did, because I don't think anyone really thinks of her besides me and maybe her immediate family. So, well, of the Survivor fans.
Of course.
And if you had to have anything uncovered from that little auction basket, what would you be hoping for? I know it's hard because we're not in that situation right now.
No, it is not hard,
David. But
that is where you're wrong. It is not hard in the slightest for me. Anyone who knows me in real life knows that I have it is an extremely unhealthy love for Krispy Kreme donuts. And as evidence enough, I'm looking right here. I ordered these yesterday, and it is my Krispy Kreme donut fix. Yes, it is a full dozen. I have no roommates. This is all for me. And I ate a few here. And to really prove how much I love Krispy Kreme, here is the box from earlier in the week that is literally empty. I'm obsessed.
My bigger question is not why Krispy Kreme, but why did you keep the box?
Because I like to stare at the box, remember the yummy donuts, and then ultimately yesterday I just got another dozen. So it is like my most unhealthy addiction, I would call it at this point, are Krispy Kreme donuts. So if I was out there and Jeff said, "And here we have a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts," I would have thrown the lot in. I would have been like, "D, $900 for what was it? A chocolate shake." I would have thrown $900 for Krispy Kreme. It could have been a single donut, a full dozen. I would have let it all go. What about you?
Honestly, I can't blame you. And to anyone listening who thinks it's weird that he kept the box, I take back what I said immediately, because once upon a time when I was in St. Andrews, Scotland, there's this amazing fudge donut place called Donaldson and Fisher, I want to say, and everyone who works there dresses in vaudevillian like pinstripe outfits, and the best fudge donuts I've ever had in my entire life, and I still have part of one of the boxes to this day. So I can't judge you at all. And if there are any Scottish listeners out there and they want to send me a box, I'm so down. And I will keep that cover of that box as well. As for me, I'm gonna be really honest. I like to snack on anything like salty. So like salt and vinegar chips or like Chex Mix. Oh my god, if there was anything salty underneath there, I would be elated.
That's wild. So let me tell you, salt and vinegar chips, get it. Chex Mix. Very interesting, David.
They're just so salty, and they've got so much MSG, and I just feel like that would be like the equivalent to a pilgrim having a Dorito for the first time. Like their mind is just going to be absolutely blown with the flavor. They're not going to know what to do with themselves, and I hope to one day be in that same position. So
I do have to agree with you there. MSG is. I mean, I feel like that in itself is like I don't know. It's like crack. Like everyone loves MSG. You can't get enough. It's insane. Anyways, I don't know why I compared it to crack. Anywho, where are we going next?
Where are we going next? I'm really excited to dig into this episode, but before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to Survivor Now on YouTube and Spotify. And if you have any of your own hot takes that you would like to be shared here on the podcast, shoot us a message at Survivor Socialists on Instagram, Survivor Socialites, rather. And also shoot us an email. I'm just so transfixed by the MSG, I can't get it off the brain, and it's not even in my body. And if you have a question you want to shoot us an email, you can reach us at survivorsocialpod@gmail.com, and we will read them right here. Speaking of which, we have a few questions to get to. Wayne messaged us on Instagram, and he asks, if someone from Survivor Guatemala could return, and it's not Brian Corridan, which I'm assuming he said because Tegwyth and Brian Corridan are BFFs, who should it be?
Let's see. I think I have to go with probably Judd, which I would just, David knows this. I'm not the biggest old school guy. And I feel like Judd made an impression. I remember Judd. So let's have Judd back. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean,
let's see how he's evolved.
Jeff will hate every second of it, I'm sure, but it'll be great for us.
Yeah. let's see what track he's been on. What about you, David?
And that's okay that you're not an old school fan. Nobody's perfect, Phil, and you bring so much to the table that I'll try and forget about that. But I would probably say Cindy, the zookeeper, the person who just loved the howler monkeys, whose twin sister was on another reality show, I want to say, I Love Money, and I think she won. Either way, I think her and her sister should come on the same season, and they should just swap them out and see if anyone can tell the difference between them. That's what
Blood vs. Water 3. Blood vs. Water 3. Let's do it.
Yeah. Our next question is from Mike, who asks, what's your favorite piece of old school Survivor trivia? Well, Phil, as you try and think back and from an old school season that you actually enjoyed, I can answer in the meantime. Brandon Quinton of Survivor Africa fame has gone on record saying that during the casting finals for his season, he knew who his competition was. He could see who the other gay man was, and he said, this is my direct competition, and the person was always wearing a Hello Kitty shirt. So what Brandon did was go to the craft store, buy a white t-shirt, and I guess in glitter, or I'm not sure what, wrote Hello Kitty must die, and wore it as his t-shirt for the rest of the casting week, and made a point of it in his interviews, which I think is incredible. And it worked.
I kind of really dig that. That's a real keen eye. That's a real keen eye.
Yeah.
Survivor trivia. It's tough. I'm trying to think about things that I might know about certain seasons that a lot of people don't know that much. I mean, it's kind of lame because I feel like it was just spoken about on the latest RHP episode with Stephen Fishback, but I was personally surprised to find out that the auction in general is one of the challenges where there are like some of the most deleted scenes. If things don't have like an incredible amount of payoff, they're just like, wait, we're just gonna give it. You know, it never happened. And Stephen Fishback and Robin Cesternino talked about the fact that they have like numerous memories of things that happened during their personal auctions that never made air. Yeah, Stephen, in fact, yes, he talked about the fact that he actually won, if I'm not mistaken, he talked about the fact that he won some of the most food during that auction of anyone on his season. But it didn't get shown because there was just so much more that was more entertaining, like Brendan and Tyson sharing peanut butter.
Wow. Little did we know. I wonder if there was anything on this episode of 45 that was potentially cut due to it not being interesting enough. Maybe not, because I feel like we kept track very closely of how much money everyone had, right? So
I was gonna say, I think it's harder now because they keep track of the money, and Jeff did the thing where he pulled the rock and told us how many rounds we had. So we definitely saw all the rounds.
That's true. The math is mathing there, Phil. Thank you. And our last question before we dig into the episode itself, John asks, has there ever been a pink tribe on Survivor? And I think the closest that we've gotten is the merged tribe from Marquesas. It's like a deep purplish pink, Soliantu. And then we've also got Bayon from Cambodia, which I think is pink. And then there's a technical like exception to this where it didn't actually make the show, but there's a misprint of the Heroes versus Villains villain tribe buff where instead of it being red, it's pink. So for all you buff collectors, if any of you have that and you want to show off and rub it in my face, make me want to cry, feel free to send that in. But I believe that might be it. Are there any other instances or any international seasons that I might be?
I think that, I mean, the one that I always remember is Bayon as well from what was that Blood First Water, Cambodia, or not? Yes, that's one that I always think about. But I think that's the only one that I know off the top of my head.
So what I'm hearing is that we need another pink tribe really soon.
Yes. Maybe we just need another second chances. I think that's what we need.
I think we need a third chances. Actually, we need a fifth chances where it's literally just Boston, Rob, and Sandra. Or would that be sixth chances? I don't know. But I'd like to see a 1v1 season where it's just them the entire time.
I just want to see like whatever GoPro footage they had on Idols. I want that to be released. That's I think I would get my fix just with that.
That's incredible. So
I'm sure they were doing out there.
I'm sure there was a lot left on the cutting room floor, unfortunately. But let us dig into this glorious episode. So let's see. We get back from Tribal, and Jake addresses his vote to Julie, and Julie has a great line where she's like, you know what? It's all fun and games, but wait until it's your name that's written down. And I can't blame Julie for, not being super happy about that. And Jake's game, as we see from this episode, is not in the best position ever. He's aware of it, but it's still not really in the best position. What do you make of Jake's precarious position?
Man, Jake is a really interesting contestant as a whole. I've been saying for probably just not, I want to be like, I've been saying for weeks and weeks now. No, I've simply been saying for the last couple weeks, Jake's edit is maybe one of the most interesting to me. I feel like he's getting a very dynamic edit for someone that started off not feeling like he was going to get as dynamic of an edit. I mean, everything from his confessionals to how long they sort of sit on him at Tribal. Granted, he was like the alternate vote, pretty much like the fake out vote. So like, I guess I get that. But I think that he's getting a lot of content, and a lot of his confessionals are specifically confessionals that are like, I'm not here to just play the game. I'm here to win. And so I do think it's a little too early to call, but I feel like he has a lot more lastinghood in this game than a lot of people are giving him credit for on the surface. As far as Julie's response to having her name written down, dude, like, good for you, Julie. That's exactly what it should be. It's a lot lighter to be like, oh, come on, I wrote your name down. How silly was that? Whatever. When your name gets written down, come back to me and let me know how you feel. I mean, shout out Julie for being able to say that and sort of keep strong on her convictions of like, hey, this is not cool. It's not a light thing. You are the first one to sort of throw my name out there. So good for Julie. Once upon a time, compared her to a Heather from season 41. I do not think that she's a Heather. I think she's way more active than Heather. I think she's way more entertaining. And I'm actually really digging Julie. I really like just everything she's been doing in this season. What do
I'm
you
a
think?
fan of Julie. I'm a fan of Julie as well. I think she proved herself to be a physical force during this immunity challenge. She also has a really good connection with Dee and a bunch of the old Reba people. She's positioned well. And even though she may not be the one with an idol or an advantage, she's pretty well aware of a decent amount of things that are out there. So I think she's pretty well positioned. And maybe as some people continue to go, as I suspect certain people that are not part of her alliance will continue to go, I think we'll probably see a little bit more of her, which I'm excited about.
Same.
Yeah. So now we get to what makes this episode so great. We get the return of the auction, but a twist. Of course there is. Do you want to break down how everything related to the auction unfolds when it's presented?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we'll start off by saying that like there were a bunch of little upgrades to the auction. Okay. Starting with how your money is divvied out. No more everyone gets X amount of money and we can play the sure-in game where we're, talking beforehand and sort of strategizing the auction. Another thing, I think that's actually another one of my fun facts. Apparently, it's very common for the tribes to sort of strategize how they're going to divvy out their money before they get to the auction. It was not just a dirty 30 thing on Tribe America. Yes, sure. She might have broken the auction, but Survivor has revived it. We've added a bunch of little nuances. And the big thing is, hey, there's a bunch of tubes scattered around your island. That will determine how much money you start off with. Let's stop down on that. What do you think about that?
I'm going to be honest. I loved the element of you can get a different amount than somebody else. I think that everyone coming in at an even playing field is not as fun. We can sort of, like you said, plan around that. Try and talk to the people who are in your alliance and do something about it. But I liked the element of you can potentially get more than someone else by working for it. Obviously, there's a variable amount that could be in each tube.
Yeah.
But if your name is Bruce and you just sort of meander aimlessly and just say, I'm just going to let these young kids go get this, then you're probably not going to have as much money than anybody else, which at first seemed like a good thing because we find out that the person who has the most money by the end of the auction will lose their vote. And it seemed like coming into it, Bruce was in a really good position and that the likelihood of him being that person who loses their vote seemed very slim. However, everyone was throwing their money faster than I don't even know what. Kel pretending that he didn't have his beef jerky and throwing it as soon as the cameras came. I have no idea how fast he was doing it. Everyone was doing it, but everyone was throwing their money super fast, and Bruce ended up being the person who lost his vote. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just love that this even occurred due to the auction. I liked that it got different.
I agree, and I think that Adam Klein said this. I think we did get the best version of this because having Bruce being the one person that sort of was like, you know what, I'm gonna take my time. The turtle in the hair sort of mentality. The turtle will win at the end if I just take my time and throw on my shoes, whatever. And then we sort of got that subverted, where he realized, hey, this is a fast and furious game. It's not a game of patience finding these tubes. And it was interesting. I was sort of waiting, being like, okay, who has the most money? Who doesn't? I definitely found it more interesting than everyone just getting the same amount of money, for sure. From there, we bring it to the auction, where, to your point, you said, there is this sort of updated rule of the person who has the most amount of money at the end of the auction will lose their vote. I love this. No more holding on to anything holding on to your money, trying to wait for an advantage. Also announced at the start, there's not going to be an advantage here, like use your money while you have it on trying to get some food. Stop down here. How do you feel about that? I candidly was not the biggest fan of that being announced. I really wish that Jeff went with more of a, hey, there might be an advantage. There might not. What there won't be is a full unveiled item that is exclusively an advantage. If there is an advantage in this game, if I'm happy with him keeping it open-ended, if it will be within a food, it will be disguised as something else. Just letting them know, hey, you should be betting on everything because there is an advantage, but it's not going to be in the form of a straight up advantage. I think that would have been really fun because then you have people sort of looking at things being like, huh, could there be an advantage in that? And even with like the fish eyes, imagine if in there was like one of those little bracelets from season 43 where it was an idol. You know, I think that would have been like really fun. And I think that him straight up being like, hey, there's zero advantages here. Did it ruin the auction? Absolutely not. I had a blast watching this. But I think that element of like possible surprise in someone sort of finding it and feeling like they need to hide it, people looking around being like, okay, let me see this person eat their food, whatever. I think that could have been fun. But what did you think?
I disagree.
Yeah, please.
I think that they should not have said anything at all. I don't think they should have expressed it being open-ended. I think they should have just proceeded with the auction. I don't think that he should have mentioned what was going to be offered. I think he should just have explained the rules, said what was going to happen with, I'm just going to take a random number out of this bag and it'll end abruptly. It could range between, I think, 10 and 15 or 9 and 15. I can't remember exactly. Mm-hmm. And 6 and 15, I have no idea. Numbers don't stick in my brain. I could never be Stephen Fishback in that challenge where he runs and memorizes all of the numbers and comes back. He is someone I admire in many ways, and that's one of the many reasons why I admire him. Couldn't be me. Anyway, I think that they just should have proceeded with the auction, shouldn't have said a word about what was coming, shouldn't have said anything, because then people can assume maybe there are going to be some advantages. It would keep people on their toes. I think it would have been really interesting, and it would have created even more paranoia, which we already know is, plentiful at this point.
Actually, and I'll say this, I think that's a really, really good sort of edit there. So long as he also let them know, hey, most money loses their vote at the end, but does not tell them anything about an advantage. Not being like, oh, there may or may not be. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's still keeping it open-ended, which is very similar. But you're right. If they just don't say anything, but they do let them know, hey, if you have the most money, like you're screwed, then people do feel the pressure to use the money. But there is that also slight pressure to be like, should I use the money? Because I do think that him just outright being like, there will not be an advantage in here, it makes it so easy to use your money. There's no longer I should wait for something. Sure, maybe there is like, I want to wait for the right meat. I don't know, the right meal, but I don't think that is as enticing to an audience as them really being like, okay, I am at a conflict here where part of me wants to use all my money so that I don't lose my vote. The other half wants to save it because there may be an advantage, and I feel like we didn't have that counter side there where it was just like the strategy was obvious. Use your freaking money. Or you're going to lose your vote. So, yes, I think it's a really good edit, David.
Thank you. That's where I think it got a little monotonous for me in the actual episode itself, is where by the end it was just whoever has the most money is, if they have a chance to go to the next round, they're going to use their money. Oh, the person with the most money, they're going to go again. Oh, the person with the most money, they win automatically. And that was just boring to me by the end. That was the only thing that got a little bit monotonous. And I think that keeping it open-ended with the promise of potentially losing out on an advantage would have kept people from playing a little bit as safe as they did. But
100%.
You know what? 100%. Still happy. Still really, really glad that Emily predicted the fact that she got a margarita. Or no, that Kelly got the margarita.
Yeah.
She said there's a 100% chance that there's a margarita under there. And lo and behold, Emily is correct. Once again.
I loved seeing Emily do a little twerk, a little happy dance. I don't think that would have ever been on my bingo card of, at some point here, Emily is going to do a little happy dance. I mean, certainly at the start of the season, I would have never guessed that. That was like really fun. And for what it's worth, this is what the auction always was. It was like a little break from the game. obviously. It sort of changed over time when people were like, okay, there's going to be an advantage here, obviously. But it was like a cool little break for the game where everyone could sort of just be like, hey, what are we betting on and how much are we betting? You know, it's fun and it's light, and that's what's enjoyable about it. So I did thoroughly enjoy this. Thoroughly.
Me too. And I think the only thing that we didn't get that would have been great would have been everyone's reactions after they had consumed their foods and their stomachs being like, I can't handle this. Because I recently did a rewatch of Survivor Exile Island, and although almost nothing of interest happened on the Lamina tribe, there was that one episode where they ate a crap ton of beans and all of them were just hunched over, writhing in pain, similar to how Bruce that same season was writhing in pain and then Shane had to, carry him out on a stretcher while naked. Of course, everything's better on Kasaya, but I don't know why. I guess it's because I have IBS. I want to see myself in these players. And so when I see people in pain because of their stomach, I'm like, that's the Survivor experience I would know. So I think I was just willing that to happen. And I'm sure people's stomachs were just freaking out. But I think it's just my IBS-coded brain that was wanting that to happen.
No, it is also very, very fun to see people get a little bit too gluttonous at these things. In any reward for what it's worth, something that sort of sticks out in my head is Mr. Godfather of David vs. Goliath getting like way too hammered on that one reward, and he comes back and he's just drunk, and they're like, we need to talk strategy with Carl, but Carl is drunk. And like that was just so fun. It was like you would have never checked off on your bingo card, can't talk strategy with Carl because he's too drunk from a reward, and I think that might have also happened with Keith. R.I.P. We love you, Keith. But it's just those things are really fun. You get a little too gluttonous on the reward, and you come back, and it's like, oh crap! Like we have to strategize around this. Like this is what is going on.
Yeah, it's human, but not in like the typical way that we're used to. Of I'm cold, I can't sleep, I'm hungry. It's like, no, you got what you wanted. You just got too much of it, which I think is a very interesting dynamic that we don't really get enough. The last sort of thing that I want to touch on before we move on from the auction is the $900 milkshake. Is that the most expensive milkshake in the history of milkshakes?
Well, it has to be, right? I feel like there could be a milkshake out of solid gold and it wouldn't be $900. Like that was insane. And for what it's worth, like, look, and I know this is where we disagree, David, so here we go. We're pulling it out.
We've never disagreed on anything in our entire lives, Phil. What are you talking about?
Never. Drew, the smart man he is, being like, this candy is not the fuel that I desire, and sort of trying to offer it back to Jeff for a negotiation. I think that's interesting because, I'll be honest, looking at the chocolate milkshake, my thought was, oh my Lord Jesus, you paid $900 for a bunch of chocolate and just dairy, like thick dairy. That would ruin me. I think that like I would treat that like the fish eyes. I'd be like, hey, does anyone want this? I don't want this. And so I think that if I ever got sweets, I would probably play it a lot like Drew and be like, hey, can I negotiate out of this? Because like I don't want a bowl of candy on Survivor. I don't want a milkshake. I want like, some sort of meat, carbs, a little veggie, maybe something, a balanced diet. Think about my food pyramid. I don't want a bunch of sweets. But yes, has to be the most expensive milkshake ever purchased in the history of the land.
And I don't disagree with you at all about the fact that Drew made a smart decision. I think from a dietary perspective, that was a very smart decision. What I am going to roll my eyes about is that it was Drew, because I think Drew is the actually contestant of this season. And so I'm not surprised in the least that he was the one who did it. Although I will say he did talk in his sleep and it was very funny. And I feel like I'm constantly having to defend the fact that Drew is a bit irksome on this season for me. But again, I'm sure he's a delightful person outside of the game, and competition changes people. And, Drew, I bet you're a great guy, but you are the actually contestant for me. And
I think that's easy to agree to. That's easy to agree with. He's absolutely the little Jimmy Neutron. Well, actually, he's 100% contestant, 100%.
Well, actually, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I want to welcome you to Todd's Pop Shop. Here, me and my husband Jess, we custom make Funko Pops. We'll make literally anybody or anything you could imagine. But being that we're here listening to the Survivor Now podcast, I'm assuming you're all Survivor fans. So take a look at these. Some custom Funkos of your favorite Survivor winners, Sandra and Yule. Or how about Big Brother fans? Suri Goddess herself playing the game of Big Brother. You can also get her in Survivor form. Or maybe yourself with your favorite buff and a torch playing the game. But even better, get yourself with your favorite player like Nora here with Ozzy. And since you're listening to the Survivor Now podcast, if you mention this ad, you will get $10 off your first order and free shipping. All season long, Survivor 45 should be a good one. Mention this ad, $10 off and free shipping. I'll be watching too, still a diehard fan to this day. Hit me up on Instagram, Todd's Pop Shop, or toddspopshop@gmail.com, or on Facebook, and I will see you soon.
And we are back. And legitimately, who wouldn't want a pop for this holiday season from Todd Herzog? Like, that has to be on everyone's bucket list. I have some. I haven't showed mine, but I should probably at some point because they are pieces of art, to say the least.
Yeah.
And are you a Funko Pop or similar product kind of fan, Phil?
So the truth is, I actually have a couple Funko Pops, and unfortunately, they're not of the Survivor variety. They are of the Overwatch variety. I don't know if you play video games. Overwatch. I have a little May pop sitting on my desk over there. I have a Winston pop. But you know what? I think this Christmas, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to give myself a little pop of me and ecologist David right over here, and it will be like a cool little Survivor Now crew. I might get Randy too. We'll see.
I think that's a great idea. We should have all of the Survivor Now peeps on a tribe. Me with the immunity necklace, of course. Duh.
Ooh.
And the rest of you just clapping as I get the immunity necklace from Jeff. I think that would be very apropos.
I'll take it.
And we do get some good comments here from Mackenzie, who says Bruce had a well actually moment at Tribal Council, which I'm very eager to get into because you're right. Bruce is becoming a little well actually as well. Phil, thoughts?
No, look, this is strange. Bruce is absolutely a well actually guy. Let me start there. Bruce is like a quintessential well actually, like he's a well actually old head. He's not even like a young version of a well actually guy like Drew is. He is like the well actually father. However, and this is definitely it's certainly gonna be a hot take. People love hating on Bruce right now. I want to see Bruce make it out the mud, dude. I want to see Bruce be in this like really I want him to have like a weird arc where we go from not really liking him from an audience perspective, understanding why people don't like him being super hated on the season, and somehow being able to find a way to subvert that. Do I know how he's going to do it? I have no clue how he's going to do it. But if he finds a way to do it, go ahead, tell me. I'm actually really curious.
He's an OG Tika. If anyone who was absolutely unhinged could make it to the end, it would be an OG Tika. And you know that.
That's true.
They just have it in them for whatever reason. They just defy the odds. Except Bella's being picked off right now, so I don't really have a lot of hope. But if anyone can do it,
I tell you what, I think once again, I feel like I feel like Family Guy right now, making all these like external references here. But Carolyn said on her latest podcast with Rob, she was actually defending Bruce in a way that I actually really agreed with. Like, and I kind of brought this up on podcasts previously. Sometimes, like, the disdain for someone can get so overt that even though it is like justified, it still feels bad. And I feel like I got a little bit of that this episode where like he won the challenge and they flashed to the bench where people like aren't really clapping for him. When Jake calls him up for food, he's really excited to call up. I think he calls up Kendra first. And then when he calls up Bruce, he's like, yeah, Bruce, come on up, bud. Like, it feels bad. You have a confessional with Drew where he's talking about how he wants to break his spirit. like I gotta be honest, like I feel a little bad for the guy. Like, even though it's justified. And again, like this is not the first time that I have sort of done a heel turn on someone. I think that like even I was sort of talking crap about Bruce last week. I remember on the podcast, I was definitely sort of going in on him, but I have gotten to like the other side where I'm like, oh God, I mean, like when everyone is doing it, like I just hope that he feels like he has someone out there to talk to, or I don't know. I hope that he's so ignorant to everything that it's like ignorance is bliss, truly. Like, I will say, I have gotten to a point where I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Like, give him a little bit of a break. Like, yeah, he's annoying and he's a dad, but like, isn't that the role? Like, exactly. He's an annoying and he's a dad. Like, look at everyone else out there. No one else is of that age. Like, it's not old school Survivor. There's like a bunch of 40-somethings. Like, I feel like if there were a bunch of 40s and 50-somethings, like he probably wouldn't come across as annoying as he does here with a bunch of freaking 20-somethings, you know? So not like fully justice for Bruce. I mean, the guy is doing a lot, but you know, cut him a little bit of slack. You know, we don't have to shit on him in every single confessional and every scene the editors pick for him. It gets a little excessive.
Yeah, I think I enjoy Katura's responses to Bruce, and I think that is the most justified because they've had this long-standing sort of rivalry.
Yeah, that didn't bother me. That didn't bother me.
That doesn't bother me, but I think you're right. I think it's a little excessive, but on the other hand, I think it's really easy to pile on to the person that is agreed to be a public enemy.
Yes.
And I think everyone has, I mean, I would think of myself in this situation. Everyone has, emotions that are pent up. They're things that you can't say. They're things that you have to keep inside. And so to be able to express some emotion that is maybe a little negatively charged, it sometimes takes forms in the only ways that are acceptable socially. And I think that in this case, an acceptable form within the culture of this tribe to vent your frustrations and pent up emotions is to shit on Bruce, unfortunately.
Well, absolutely.
It's just,
I always say, like, at a workplace, commisery is huge. If a bunch of people at the workplace are like, oh my God, man, work's been tough this week, right? Yeah, everyone's being so hard and us, whatever. And then one of the interns comes up and goes, well, I didn't think these assignments were that hard. Everyone looks at them and they're like, dude, can you shut the hell up? Like, trust me, like, we can get through it too, but like, we're just commiserating here. And I feel like it's happening with Bruce, where it's like, he is the agreed upon person that you can kind of shit on, but from the outside, and for what it's worth, like, oh, keep it $1.50. If I was out there, I'd probably be doing the same thing. I'd probably be crapping on Bruce too, to get in with certain people. But like from the outside, it's kind of crappy. And I forgot I have this power. So let's flash up Mackenzie Fritz's comment here because she agrees with me. There we go. Yes, first he hits his head last season. Now the editors drag him through the mud. Come on, give him a break. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I personally find Bruce to be delightful. I have always been a big Bruce fan. Even when Gandia and him were brawling in the comments, I've always been a fan of Bruce. And but that being said, you're right. I think being in that situation is different, and you have to do what's best for you to climb that social ladder, even if it means that you've got to not necessarily be the nicest and throw a little shade towards people. But I think Bruce is a strong person, and I think about other situations in past seasons, like, for example, on Survivor Philippines, where Abby Maria was sort of the persona non grata who everyone was able to just crap on constantly. Obviously, vastly different situations, but it's similar in the sense that there is a person that everyone feels comfortable talking about. But Abby Maria did have that moment where she sort of broke down and was like, I didn't realize that I was this unlikable. And I'm pretty sure she cried at Tribal Council at one point, and it has to get to these people to be on the receiving end of that. So, but I get the sense that Bruce is a strong guy. I'm not saying Abby Maria wasn't strong. I'm just saying I think that everyone is being especially harsh on her. But I think Bruce is strong, and I think that he'll be able to get through this. And I think now he can look back and laugh, and I'm sure everything is fine. But my heart just go out to Bruce.
And for what it's worth, like, I actually specifically remember that I brought this up in the last time that I was on Survivor Social. It reminds me of like Romeo. Everyone was dogging on Romeo, and like at a certain point, like it kind of got uncomfortable. And for what it's worth, I don't think that this has reached that place at all. But
Phil, even though a lot of vitriol was spit in the direction of Romeo, it did give us the quote from one Mike Turner: "Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Oh, he's sitting in the same spot that he was 20 days ago." And I think about that very, very frequently. So
That is a hilarious soundbite from our very own New Jersey Hoboken firefighter. Shout out New Jersey. So yes, there's always a little glimmering, shine at the end of a tunnel. But yeah, that's
absolutely
what I gotta say about that. Where do we go after this, my friend?
So we can then go to the immunity challenge, unless you feel that there are any really important moments prior to that. I don't necessarily feel that way.
Let's push through.
All right. So
let's hold through. Let's hold on.
Ah, that's true. Maybe
Yeah.
you can, but I don't particularly feel like I have the muscle for that today. Maybe tomorrow. But so the challenge this week involves balancing a log weighing a third of each player's original weight. And before the challenge gets started, there's a temptation introduced of a bag of rice for the entire tribe that will last the entire duration of the game. And if 4 players are willing to sit out, then they're able to obtain it. We get some people, yes, great moment. We get a few people immediately stepping up. And tell us what happens, Phil. Why is this such a great moment?
Well, as they're deliberating, figuring out who's going to step up, whatever, the same thing we've seen the last few seasons, we've certainly gotten bored of, if I can speak for myself. We have Jeff say, hey, I have something that'll make this a little bit easier for you. And I love Katora's reaction of, oh, what could it be? What's up, Jeff? And this man literally pulls out a knife and stabs the bag of rice. Maybe the most overtly morbid we've seen Jeff ever. It was weird to see Jeff pull a knife, but he did it and it was amazing. And he stabs the bag of rice and it starts flooding into a basket as he says, hey, this will continue to sort of pour out until you decide on 4 people. Good luck. Hope this helps. And Drew, fire under his ass. It's like, oh, 4 people, hurry up. It did put a fire under their asses, man. Shout out to the producers on this. Shout out to Jeff on this. This was incredible. I love this. And I hope this becomes a staple in different forms. I don't want to say the same freaking thing every single time, but this was fun. I really enjoyed this. What do you think about it, David?
I thought that this was a moment where Jeff was slowly coming into the parody of himself that was created on Total Drama Island. I can't remember the name of the guy. I think his name was Chris McLean. Yes, that was the name of the fictional host of Total Drama Island, meant to be a parody of Jeff Probst. And Chris would just do whatever the hell he wanted to screw with these people. And I think that's almost getting to the point where Jeff is now. And it almost echoes, for those of you who listen to this podcast who also watch RuPaul's Drag Race, RuPaul is just unhinged in these newer seasons. She's on 5 or 6 espressos a day, maybe even more, and she's just completely unhinged. She doesn't care anymore. She's just saying what's on her mind. It's like when your elderly relative starts to, go a little bit out of their minds and they're just saying whatever the hell they want to. I think this is getting to the point. Maybe the Botox is spraying and those toxins are going to other parts in his body, but Jeff is just unhinged.
It was insane.
And I'm kind of loving it.
It was insane, and I love it. And what do you think? You think this is coming back? You think two questions. You think this is coming back for season 46, who obviously will not have seen this season by the time that they sort of played through their game? And then do you think it's going to be a staple, once again, a form of this, where he goes, okay, for every second you take, we're chopping off a little bit of the fish that's hanging here. Are there other ways to do it? Do you want it to come back?
There's so many ways you can do this. I was just thinking about oh, you guys, you want this chicken? If one of you don't complete this challenge by the time that it takes for me to kill and eat this chicken, then this chicken's going to me instead. I could see Jeff doing that. 1,000%. Just on a spit roast by the end of the challenge. He's cranking it as he's watching them, eating it. They give him a nice little plate, some cutlery as he's watching them complete the challenge. He's like, well, didn't do it fast enough, so.
That would be fun. I mean, not him like killing a chicken live on air, but I think just to see the idea of, hey, these offerings are being offered, but they're not forever. Make a freaking decision, dude. This isn't like we don't need this to be a 30-minute segment. This is gonna be a 1-minute segment. Like, figure it out. I love that. I love that because the truth is, as long and monotonous as it felt previously, decide on who's sitting out, whatever. Like, the truth is, we were getting an edited version of that. It was probably even longer on the island, and just the thought of like a group of people standing around and like figuring out which speed it up, figure it out. This is a challenge, you know. This is a part of your challenge. I think it's fantastic.
And I think this also answers the question that was posed at the beginning of the new era of who is this monster that Jeff keeps referring to?
It's him.
Who is this monster? It's Jeff, in case you weren't aware. Yeah.
It's Jeff. Yeah. If anyone had any question, it was him.
The next logo, the logo for Survivor 46 is going to be like the face of Jeff just looking down on all of these contestants, towering over them, and all of them looking up in fear. It's Jeff. Jeff's the monster. On that note, we commenced this challenge, and everyone is hanging in there, which I'm actually very glad to see because of their piss-poor performances in previous challenges, notably the one from the previous episode, the quintessential log, stand on this pole and hug like Twyla from Survivor Vanuatu, bite onto it with your teeth because you want it so badly. I was thoroughly unimpressed with their performance in that previous challenge, so I'm really glad to see them hanging in there, literally, in this challenge. But I didn't realize that the rules were getting so stringent where Jake couldn't even bend his arm. That seems strange to me.
Yeah.
Like, just let people do it how they want to and let them just brute force it, right? Like, stop. You can control a lot. Don't control how someone's positioning their arms. Like, please shut up. You're the monster. Don't be the rule monster, too, okay?
I think what's fun about these challenges are, like, the strategies that people can come up with to help them. I mean, think about back in the day, that poll challenge, right? When Parvati is just sort of finding a way to just hang on, and she makes it look so leisurely. I'm imagining if a producer got like pissed at her and was like, "Hey, no, you have to hug it. That's how we designed the challenge. You have to hug." Like, it wouldn't have been as like cool. Where it's like, oh, she's like hacking the challenge. She's somehow like levitating here. Like, you know, I would have found it really fun if like everyone had a different strategy for how they wanted to do it, but instead they really locked everyone to the same strategy. It's like, hey, you can't wrap it around your hands, can't bend your arm, you can't kneel, like no versatility at all. It's hey.
Survivor is a game about adaptation. There should be opportunities for adaptation in all aspects of the game, challenges included. I think back to the challenge that they did in Micronesia where they were holding them on those little poles and you would have to have someone walk across the poles and on the platforms. I'm explaining this horribly, but there were these poles, you were in the water and you were trying to get someone from one platform to the other. And the idea was that you put one pole in front of the other so the contestant could sort of walk across it. But they found that it was easier for the people to just stand on one pole, sort of kneel down, crouch, and have them just carefully bring them from one to another. And I think Parvati was a part of that as well. And that's what I love. I love the creativity in the challenges. There shouldn't be just one way to do it. And I think that if adaptation and changing it up is part of the game, then you should be able to do that in every possible scenario. Maybe it's not possible for every challenge, but like you should commend and encourage that creativity, I think.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, right? To your point, you can't do it during every single challenge. So like, why not let them do it for the challenges that they can, you know? Give them that right. Same thing, man. Like, what an iconic scene in this very own season. What was it? Maybe challenge 2? Maybe it was I think it might have been the very first challenge when they used their buffs to help pull each other up. What if they were like, no, that's not how we designed it. You can't use your buffs. It would have been a lot less interesting. So, yeah, I think let the contestants do what they need to do to win.
And the Kansas monster himself was eating that moment up when they did that with the buffs. And now it's the same Kansas monster who is unwilling to applaud or encourage that. Maybe it was just because the challenge was already underway and he didn't want to have to stop and reset. But Kansas monster, I encourage you to be more open-minded in that regard.
Here we go.
Yeah. And so this challenge ends up coming down to Bruce and Mama J.
Also,
And
sorry, I just wanna say really quick, and I just think it's so funny. In my head, like I had a feeling you were talking about Jeff, but I just went on Google and I go, "Is Jeff from Kansas?" And it's very clever, David. Very
thank you. I was actually referring to Danny Boatwright. Nobody knows that she's the new executive producer of Survivor, and she is also from Kansas. So I'm actually referring to her.
Imagine.
Yeah. But back to this challenge, we get this showdown between Bruce and Mama J, and I'm impressed by both of them. They're both
Mhm.
giving it all they've got, but this win that Bruce, pulls out is much more important to him than it is to Mama J, in the sense that he didn't have a vote at this tribal council. So there was a good chance that he was going to be the one getting all the votes piled up on him if he did not win this immunity. So extra props for Bruce, and I know some people were not very excited that he won. I bet Kelly is now the most upset about that in hindsight.
Mhm.
But regardless, he earned it, and he deserves his applause. And I hope that he enjoyed this amidst all of the crap that was thrown on him in the last couple episodes.
Yeah, I'm happy that they at least threw in. I mean, when he talked about like it reminding me of his kid, the color of the station that he got. Like at the very least, I'm happy that they kept in D saying that's beautiful, because again, like, look, people don't like the guy on the island. That's fine, but like, let's give him a little bit of grace and like love when it feels like it's like appropriate, and when he's sitting there being like, "Hey, this reminds me of my daughter," and even Jeff is like, "Oh, well, that seems seemingly random." I'm like, Jeff, shut up, dude. Like, let him have this moment, please. Something like everybody, let him have one moment. And so I love that D was like, "That's beautiful." There you go.
I love the moments themselves. I do. I like the contents of what is being said. I appreciate that people are sharing about their lives.
Mhm.
However, I don't know when winning an immunity challenge was the equivalent of you accepting an award at some award show. Like, since when was winning an immunity challenge the equivalent to going up to the podium and accepting an award at the Golden Globes? I don't understand why it's become that. And I appreciate everything that everyone said. It's touching. When Dee was talking about her family when she won immunity, I started to tear up a little bit. I thought it was beautiful. Has this always happened? Stephen Fishback. Did this happen in Token Chains, just like they cut out the stuff related to the auction? I want to know, because I'm going to be really honest. Is it just this season? What's going on?
No, it is not just this season. That's almost why I was sort of laughing. I was going to say, if you think this is the first time that's happened, please.
But it
has been
seems
going
like a
on-
lot more.
It's been going on for a bit. I mean, you even see, once again, it was beautiful. It was amazing. Like, genuinely, like, thank you for your service, Gabler. But like, dude, Gabler was like literally being like, this is to this person and that's to that person. He walked in, and when he's accepting his immunity, he talks about how he like thought about all the people that like fought in the war with him, whatever. It has been like this for a little bit. It has. I don't think that this is like too new. I think that we could even go back to like, I'm trying to think, like Tony crying during Winners at War for finally winning his first immunity. Like, this has been going on for a bit. I don't think this is new. However, your critique stands. It's like, I do think that people are like blowing up every immunity when they're like, okay, this is guaranteed airtime. I'm gonna go ahead and just melt people right now as best I can. It's definitely, but it has been happening for a while. I don't think it's too new. But once again, critique still stands. I think it's like, come on, get on it. You got the immunity.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's just this season that's happened. I'm saying it's just this season where I think they're making an even bigger deal out of it.
They're making a meal out.
It's the challenge is the subheading, and one of the subheadings is the part in which the person expresses their gratitude and use this as an opportunity to express something about their lives. It used to just be Jeff puts the necklace around your neck, he pats you on the back, maybe you give him a hug if you're being really salacious, and that we carry on with our day, and then everyone sort of complains and is annoyed that you want immunity. But
I hear you.
I don't know. I think it's just part of the new era that and I like you said, it came before then, but it's part of the new era that I'm just like, love it. So happy for you. Congratulations. You really pulled it out. I'm touched by what you're saying. Get off the soapbox.
Right.
Please.
I'll say
Pour
this.
your heart out at Final Tribal if it comes to that, but like, chill.
Yeah. I even want to say, like, probably like David versus Goliath when Christian won his challenge. I think he did it too. It's been going on for a bit. But yes, I think once again, critique stands. It's a lot sometimes. And even for like the Christian one's a little different, you know. He was up there for what, 12 hours? Like, I feel like that deserves like a moment when you're just competing on a challenge for like, I don't know, like 15 minutes, and then you're getting off being like, and this goes out to David, Randy Bruce, Tegwyth, Matt Fink, all of you. Like, come on, dude. Like,
now I'm hoping for the opposite. I hope that they bring back like the shuffleboard challenge where they, slide those shuffleboard type things, and it takes absolutely no effort whatsoever. And I hope it's the most menial, low effort challenges, and I hope people just milk it for all it's worth now.
Okay.
Yep, it was my dream to win the shuffleboard challenge. I put one in my basement just for this. You don't understand.
Now,
my whole life has been leading up to this moment.
You might have to remind me exactly which season this is. I certainly remember the moment because I was like, are they effing serious? The family visit where the challenge was literally a rock pull. Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh man, I'll find it before the end of the episode. Please, get us into the next section here. I'll do a little digging.
Okay, so we're after the challenge, and inevitably there is a scramble. Bruce is safe, which throws a wrench in everybody's plans, and so the focus then shifts to Jake, which Jake has been in precarious situations as well, and there's an awesome scene where not everyone, there are a few folks who are talking to Jake, and they're like unwilling to give him a name, and Jake is very much aware of the fact that they're not giving him a name because they either want to leave him out of a plan or they want him to be the plan. And we have this wonderful moment where Jake agrees. Everyone turns their back, and then Jake just looks at the camera and is like, ugh. I'm not sure he breaks the fourth wall per se, but it's a wonderful moment where we see Jake just roll his eyes in disgust of like, you think you're pulling one over on me? I don't think so. I'm a lawyer. I may have just become a lawyer last week, but I'm still a lawyer. And that to me was absolutely hilarious. And then we see Kelly becomes the alternate target due to her closeness to Bruce. And again, Kelly is aware of this. Kelly is not completely surprised that she's a target. And that's something that I really appreciate about all of these new era edits and these players is that they know when they're potentially a target. They're not completely, unaware of it, which makes the blind sides even better. Phil, do you have an update for us?
I do have an update for us. It is season 35, Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, family visit. I remembered it was a family visit. I literally remembered all this except for the season. And yes, it was literally a rock draw. And I found it on, I found it on Reddit. They have a screenshot from it. The ironic part is someone in the comments is actually defending this challenge. Obviously, there are a lot of people memeing it, and they're like, boy, I hope this challenge comes back. I hope to see it in future seasons. But someone wrote that in this specific instance, it was actually a great idea that they did this because apparently, people were throwing family challenges at this point because they felt like if you won the family challenge, you had to pick other people to go to either see their family or not, which felt like a disadvantage because people were obviously going to be more upset with you. But two, because Ben was the consensus vote, so they felt like this was the only way to keep things most fair. Give him a fighting chance. But still, I think it's just wild. I literally remember that when it was like in the challenge today, we're keeping it simple. We're pulling rocks out of a bag. And it was like, wait, what? How is this the challenge? But alas, yes, people know that they're targeted now. How fantastic! There's not a bunch of recruits in Mactors on Survivor that don't even understand how the game is played. Instead, it's like, oh, okay, I'm in danger and I know it. What can I do to get myself out?
Yep, I think that is a huge selling point to the new era is that people are cognizant and it allows for even deeper strategy as a result of people being aware of what's coming down the pike. And, you know, Phil, I really pride myself on a lot of Survivor knowledge. And I have to say that HVHVH is one of those seasons that I try and push down into my subconscious as much as possible because I'm not a huge fan. So I'm
Hey,
really glad that you were able to cement that into my knowledge, and I'll try and jostle my head a few times to set that information free. But thank you.
you're welcome, David. One of the most, I mean, look, one of the more disappointing seasons, in my opinion. I was
Ben isn't
actually,
your favorite winner? What?
you know what? I actually forgot. I love Ben Drebergen. I followed him around, even on like the challenge. Much like Bruce to Kelly, I follow this man everywhere. He's fantastic. No, it's very far from my favorite winner, but the season's actually not too bad. Anywho, we have Kelly in danger. We have Jake in danger. What did you think when all this was going on? Did you think for a second that Kelly's demise was going to be this episode, or were you sort of sitting there going, okay, well, there's your answer. What did you think was going to happen? Do you think it was Jake, like, on a full sweep?
Absolutely. I thought that it was pretty heavy-handed with, oh, there's Jake searching for an idol. You know, this is his last little ditch effort before things just come crashing down. We've got a lot of confessionals of him being like, I'm not in a great position. I got to start playing better. And I thought that would have been a really interesting way to just be like, all right, well, no more playing at all for you, Jake. But let's dig into this tribal council because Bruce has a unique distinction that he wants to make abundantly clear to everyone. What was that, Phil?
Oh, Lord Jesus. David, can I let you handle this one, please? I don't know. I'd like you to share with the class.
Okay. I believe it was Bruce, the Bruce from Warwick, Rhode Island, my New England fellow. It was Bruce who said, I am the first person to have won immunity and lost my vote. No way. That's so cool. Honestly, my mind is pretty blown. You go, Bruce. Let's all give some claps. Actually, I think that the tone of this, because it's really not actually that cool, receives more like a snap kind of reaction to it rather than an actual clap, because I'm not putting my hands together for that.
Snaps in the chat. Snaps in the chat, please.
Yeah, snaps everywhere.
It's so hard to defend this man because he does things like this. I was like, Bruce, save it, please. You're lucky. You're lucky you're saved in this game. Like, just save this
He makes the Kansas Monster acknowledge it. The Kansas Monster doesn't have time for that. He's just ready to pull out his knife and stab another bag of rice. He's not interested in your meager little record that no one will ever remember 10 years from now.
Strange. It's strange that he wanted to harp on this. But hey, all I'm going to say is, look, as wildly misguided as our friend Bruce is a super fan of this game. He is. I wouldn't even know that if I was on the island. That's like a really niche fact. Like I maybe a producer told him it. Like that is such a niche fact. And for what it's worth, Bruce is like constantly in the comment section of all these podcasts. Bruce is a super fan, and so sometimes we are disappointed in our super fans, a la Brendan. But it was just it was a really strange fact to bring out, and it didn't have like any real big relevance. And yes, to your point, the fact that he like really wanted Jeff to sing his praises for it was...
Well, at the same time, I guess I can understand it because there have been 45 seasons of this show. For there to be something novel like that kind of record, it is sort of like, wow, that's a first. But I think that's all it really deserved was, wow, that's a first. So on that note, I don't think we should spend any more time on this. So we then move on to the even more uncomfortable part of this tribal council where Jake is clumsily trying to pitch to avoid a straightforward vote against him. He's like, there are better ways to do this. Let's pick apart Jake's performance at this tribal. Maybe not his final words that have become a GIF that I'm seeing everywhere, but what did you make of him sort of trying to defend himself?
It's been the conversation all over the Survivor internet. Was this theater or was this authenticity? I think if it's theater, I think you could have done a better job, to be honest. If it's authenticity, like it was a little strange. I didn't love it. I'm gonna be honest, I did not love it. I don't think it's the reason why he was saved either. Like, I don't think that you can point to this and be like, oh, no, but like him saying that flipped votes. No, it didn't. It didn't flip any votes. I think if anything, like, he just got really close to calling a bunch of people out, which people, I think, are going to remember. I don't think they're going to gloss over it. I think they're going to be like, okay, you didn't fully say it, but very similar to Bruce going, that's about the dumbest thing you could, sorry, not the dumbest. Like, if you get started, people are not morons in this world. Some people are, but most people are not. Most people are lucid, conscious humans who can sit there and be like, okay, you were really close to dropping like a Deshaun bomb at Tribal where you think it's going to help you out. And like, it could have been worse. I'll say that. It could have been worse, but I don't think it actually helped him. It was like, it was strange. It was a strange choice, but he
and what did you make of his accidental dropping of, if I play my idol? What'd you think of that?
I don't think that I would have fallen for it, but again, it's hard to say. It's, I'm on the other side of the television screen. I'm sitting on my couch. It's a lot easier for you to be like, oh, I would have never fallen for that. But like, I don't think I ever would have fallen for that. I think a lot of times when people, it's very similar to like, honestly, like, and I do think he's a way better player than Sifu, but it's very similar to Sifu. Like going back to Reba and being like, well, good thing I didn't play my idol. And it's like, if you actually have an idol, you don't want people to know about it. And you're gonna mostly keep it to yourself. Like, I don't know many people that would be like parading their idol around. I think it's one of the easiest ways to tell that you don't have one, is that you're like using it as like a weird, like oversold threat. And I think that's what Jake did here. Where he's like, yeah, in my, a idol. It's like, dude, like, can you be more on the nose? Like, relax. What did you think?
I think you summed up everything I could possibly say about this. That would be nice, and even a little not nice. So I think we can sum it up there and get to this vote. Jake does use his shot in the dark. He asks for Caleb to blow on it, as if it were, a set of dice rather than just one. And I wish that Jeff would have said, sure. I wish he didn't even ask. I just wish he ran over to Caleb and was like, blow on these. Just blow on these. I think that would have been hilarious, because I think that we should get as much content of Caleb as possible, because I really miss him in the game. And I think that would have been cute. Cute moment. And
did Survivor get you? I mean, I guess we're rolling through here. We're sort of going a step at a time. Even at Tribal, did you feel Kelly was going home?
I think once I got to Tribal, I think they were laying it on so thick with Jake being very heavy-handed with trying to avoid things that I thought maybe it's not going to be him. At that point, right before the votes were going to be revealed, I felt it was 50-50 between him and Kelly.
Interesting. I will admit, I was fooled until, let's get any real Survivor fan, all it takes is a time code for you to realize something funny is happening. And when it was in Los Angeles, 9:22 p.m., and Jeff is reading votes, I go, okay, this is not Jake going home, because Jake has already said so much. What more would he have to say? And it's 9:22 and Jeff is reading votes. What are they going to do? Read votes for 5 minutes and then have a commercial? It felt, I was like, I did accidentally look at my phone to be like, oh, it feels like we're kind of early on this. So I was fooled by Survivor. the time code, I think, sort of, made me think and be like, okay, something weird happens here. And that was when, we find out that, hey, Kelly gets voted off. How wild is that? Not a single mention of the amulet. And Kelly goes home.
And Kelly is truly stunned.
What the hell, guys?
Whoa! Sorry. Whoa. Jake and Kelly's reactions will be living in my mind rent-free, and I will be thinking about them consistently. I do have to briefly speak about Kelly for a moment because she was many people's winner pick.
100%.
She is originally from Connecticut, so I've got extra love for Kelly. I think she was very well positioned throughout most of this game. I loved that she was someone who everyone wanted to work with. And I think if Caleb had still been in the game for whatever reason, I think that there were enough big targets ahead of Kelly that she probably would have made it a little bit further, maybe to the end, who knows. But I think she was very well positioned. Out of all of the Bello people, I had the most faith in her. So with the exit of Kelly, I don't have a strong feeling that the winner is going to be from Bello. I still think that D will be the winner of this season.
That's really interesting.
Or Emily, but probably D.
It's really interesting. I think that there is a case to be made for Jake. I do.
Really?
I do.
Because I think that his social stock has just gone to the gutter.
But he does this thing. And look, I went to college in Boston. You're a New Englander. There is something about this East Coast New England vibe where you keep everything on the surface. Him voting for Julie, he's not playing the D from Miami going, yeah, no, I didn't vote for you. He's going, even before they even leave, before he even hugs Caleb. He says, hey, Julie, that vote was mine. We'll talk later. Whatever. I think that he can New England himself out of this, man. I think that I can see him going back and being like, oh my God, I tried everything I could out there. How silly did I look? That's so stupid, right? And he calls himself out so no one else can walk around and call him out. That's what New Englanders do best. You can't talk crap if I've already aired it all out. You know what I mean? It's not a conversation. I just had it. Like, that's the East Coast way. And I think that I think most people, if Drew got embarrassed like that, Drew's not coming back. He's too subtle of a player. Jake is brash. Jake will go back, and I think that Jake can get himself out of this. I do, and maybe I'm crazy. And I actually go as far as to say, I've heard the D thing a lot. I'm skeptical about D. I don't know if D can win. I feel like D, when she won her immunity, last episode, they made a meal out of her being power clouded and her almost like misted by her own power to think that she can boss certain people around, and they made her look stupid by being like, oh, Jake, he's eating out of her palms, he's easy to sway. And then you have the confessional from Jake making her look silly by being like, these people think they can tell me what to do. I'm not that type of player. I'm not the one. Why would they show us that if they want D to look awesome? And so,
but they didn't make it. Which they winners aren't going to be portrayed perfectly. Look at Gabler.
You're gosh darn right. And I think that, you could say that about a lot of people. Even Marianne, people thought that she was, just some, silly, some silly goofy girl in the beginning of the season, and then she really stepped up towards the end. So trust me, I think it's possible for everyone, but I actually am not as high on D as a lot of people seem to be. And I think that the last episode showed me that. I was like, man, they're really laying it hard on the fact that D is going on a bit of a power trip, and she's actually quite misguided in her takes. Yeah. That said, what she wanted to happen did happen. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to say. I think that's what makes it such a good season. There are a lot of viable winners. I can see a lot of these people winning. I really can.
Definitely.
And so it's really exciting moving forward. And hey, let's think about the next episode. What did we see in the next time on?
I am perplexed. We saw 3 groups of 3. We saw Jeff saying that there's a chance that one whole group of people is going to lose their vote at the next tribal council.
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been a time where only 2/3 of the contestants could vote? Oh my God, Phil, it's a new record. Oh my goodness. Does it really count if there's
the papers?
Does it really count if they're creating them themselves? I don't think so. A record in Survivor history. We made this one, but you should still be impressed.
Well, funny enough that you say that, dude. I was gonna say that about the Bruce record. It's ironic because, like, I don't know, we've only been in this era of like losing votes for what, few years? Like, this was not a staple in early Survivor, mid Survivor, late mid Survivor. This is only a staple in like the very recent season of Survivor. So again, it's cool, but Bruce, it's not the craziest thing in the world.
Phil, I don't like that you're picking on Bruce right now. I think we need to give Bruce his flowers. People have been too hard on him. Yeah, he's kind of a weird guy, but we love Bruce. So stop it. No more of this hating on Bruce, Phil. I've had enough of it. And I'm so mad I can't even deal with you right now. We're going to go see an ad because I can't with you right now. Go, Bruce.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more superfans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a superfan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
Let's go,
And
Katie.
we are back. Are you ready to be nice to Bruce?
You know what? In that sort of 30-second ad spot, I think I've learned my lesson, David. I think I've learned my lesson.
Katie Tedesco Art had healed your heart.
Oh my gosh, it heals my heart every single time. I love that. I love it. I mean, these people are so creative. I love it. Superfan community, they do it all. They really do it all.
They don't get snaps from me. They get full-on claps because, yeah, they're bringing their A game. And I'm also ready to give out some warmness and niceness, which I don't like to do very often on this podcast, but we have to because we are going to enter award season and we are going to give away the Social Butterfly Award to the individual we feel played the best socially this week. Phil, anyone you're particularly excited to give your Social Butterfly Award to? I know Bruce seems like the obvious choice to you, but I would really like you to reconsider before hastily giving away this award.
You're gonna hate this. You're gonna absolutely hate this. I'm gonna give it to Drew. I'm gonna give it to Drew. And that's the podcast, guys. Thank you for coming in. No, I gotta give it to Drew, man. I love it. Bruce, we have Bruce in the chat. Oh my Lord, let's go. Bruce, we love you. Anywho, yeah, I gotta give it to Drew. I gotta give it to Drew. Him throwing out Kelly's name in, sort of this real pinch of a spot, really turning things off Jake onto the player that he wants. Certainly, like, I mean, he knows about the amulet. It was a sort of double down move where he now knows that Austin has his full idol. I think that was really, really crafty. So I'm gonna give him that. I'm gonna give it to Drew, and I'm sorry because I know,
Look, I will give credit where it's due. I think that Drew has made good moves in this game. I think he has made bad moves in this game. I think that he's a human. He's a very smart human. Would I find him particularly likable if I was playing against him? Not necessarily.
Sorry. David, one of the smartest people to ever play Survivor. He told us that in the premiere. Let's not lose that.
And he said it, so it must be true.
I know that bothered you. I feel like even that bothered me. I was like, dude, are you serious? Or like, Does he get that soundbite? How do you get that soundbite? Yes, this is one of the smartest people to ever play Survivor, Dave. Let's not lose that.
You know what they say. You got to be hyperbolic if you want to get a good soundbite to actually get on the TV screen. Anywho, as much as I would love to give this award to Bruce, just to stoke the flames of the people who think that he's, not playing the best socially right now, unfortunately, I think I'm going to give this award to Julie, actually, because I think Julie deserves some love, and I can't get over the moment where she calls Jake out, because I feel like a lot of people in that position, especially younger people in that position, would be like, you know what, it's okay, and sort of conceal how they really felt. But I just really love that Julie was like, you know what, you deal with it when your name comes up. And it was sort of like this isn't a threat, it's a promise kind of situation. And I love seeing that from Julie. And that was enough for me. That warmed my heart. And I also want to give some love to some more subtle players, because I think that people who get a lot of screen time often overshadow the people who have been doing consistently well. And people really haven't been targeting Julie. And she's good in the challenges. She has strong connections within Reba. She has a really close ally in D. I think she's positioned very well. And I think if she got to the end, I think people would vote for her.
I don't disagree with any of that. I like I said, I'm really enjoying Julie, and I will say, I'm enjoying Julie counter to the people that I typically get excited about in these seasons. I am not, and I'm sorry to say it, I don't root for, a lot of times I don't root for, the older woman on a season. I feel like there's less for me to connect with. I also just don't necessarily feel like I have too much faith in them in many seasons. A lot of times they get a sort of rough path to any end for themselves. But Julie has really impressed me, and I've talked about this a lot actually through my podcasting with Survivor Now. I have been very, very impressed with Julie and what she's been able to do. She's the oldest contestant. She's older than Bruce. Am I mistaken? I don't want to. I think she's the oldest contestant on the season. Correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Oh my God! I thought you were gonna let me sit in this. I was like, David, stop it. Tell me whether I'm right or wrong. I believe she is.
Well, okay, I get that, but also why does that really? I get that, but also needing to know whether or not her or Bruce is the older contestant. It doesn't matter. I just feel like
I'll tell you
what, just isn't.
I completely disagree.
Really?
I think oh my God, are you joking? 110%. I think that if you are of an older variety on a season full of a bunch of young people, you are going to find it so much more difficult to connect with them. They have things that they're sharing over. Me and you could talk about stuff that we went through childhood, through teenageship, through our young adulthood, because we are relatively the same age. If you're talking to Bruce, you are not going to have as much in common. He lived through the 80s. You don't even know what the 80s are, David.
I've never heard of the 80s. What
you've
are
never even heard
80s?
of the 80s. He's like, what is an 8? So absolutely not. I'm going to completely detest that. I think that age is a huge factor on Survivor.
I'm not saying it's not a big factor, Phil. I just don't think that it really I think that Bruce and Julie have already been put in that category based on the way that this season has been cast. And I'm just saying whether or not Julie is older than Bruce or Bruce is older than Julie, I don't think really matters. I think they're both sort of looked at the same way within this.
Sure.
Cast.
I think the fact the oldest contestant on the entire season is being able to create the bonds that she has been able to find comfort in this group of young, wisdomless folks is incredible. And it's something that we do not see often. So I do think it's notable. And I think to not make note of that is not understanding how a social game works. It is about being able to be social with everybody. And it is a lot harder the older that you get when everyone is so young. The casting has changed, man. And so, yes, I do think it's notable. And I commend her for it. I think it's incredible. Yeah. The fact that she has been able to grow so close to people, create amazing bonds, and be in such an advantageous position this late in the game as old as she is. Think about everyone else that is of her archetype on previous seasons in this new era. They do not hold a flame to her. So, yes, I'm going to keep my claim here. I think she's fantastic. And I do think that a big check mark there is, hey, oldest contestant in the entire season, and she's keeping up with the youngins. Keep going, Julie. We love you.
We do love you, Julie. And I think she is filling that archetype of characters that and I say character again, and I like to clarify, see character as a product that we are consuming as viewers, presented to us by CBS. These are real people, doy. I do just love that archetype. It's funny that you say that you don't really connect with that archetype as much as a viewer, but that's my bread and butter. Helen Glover, Kathy Vavrick O'Brien, Carolyn from Worlds Apart, like all of those contestants.
For a second there, sorry, for a second I thought you meant Carolyn from last season. I was like, whoa, don't throw her in that category. You're gonna get yourself in trouble, David.
No.
Yes.
But
yes.
I personally, those are always who I root for. And I've actually been a little let down by the way that some of those contestants have been edited in the new era. I think about Heather, for example, like before the season started, I was like, I'm going to love Heather. I can't wait to see so much of her. And she just, was in the season for a long time. And then I never really got to endear myself to her as a viewer, which is sad because I always want to be rooting for the older woman. Always.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I think a big part of that is the way that they cast seasons nowadays. All the previous people that you said, what is that? The latest season that you brought up was Carolyn on Dirty 30. Come on, David. We are
Chrissy Hoffbeck. 35.
Okay. Yes, sure. But did you say Chrissy in the other list there? I don't think you did. So
no, but I just didn't want to list all of them and bore everyone. I was going to get to Jillian from Gabon if you let me.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
But we didn't need to go there.
But that's what I'm saying is that I think that the way they cast nowadays, man, it's so tough for that archetype to get a foothold even. And it's a shame. To your point, it's a shame. But it happens because of the way that it's cast seasons. They cast a lot more 20-somethings. I mean, shoot, they're casting 18-year-olds. The Will Walls, oh my God, who was Kellen against? Michael. Like they cast such young people that I do think that these older men and older women, they don't stand a chance. And so to see someone that is of the older variety making amazing footholds, amazing connections, improving themselves in ways that is literally defying what we expect at this point is of note, is incredible, should be called out because it's fantastic.
Huzzah. Couldn't agree more. Now, to dampen this really exciting, fun energy, let's give away a Shady Award. And we are going to be giving away the Driver of the Social Struggle Bus Award. Beep, beep. I hear it coming. We're not going to run you over, but you will be getting into the driver's seat and wearing this cap. We have to design a cap for the driver of the Social Struggle Bus. Write that down. We're going to do that. Phil, thoughts?
I mean, look, I went first last time. You go first this time, Mr. David.
I'm giving it to Jake. I think in the long term, like you said, Phil, I think that he will be able to bounce back potentially.
Right.
But I think that for the near future and for this episode, he made a fool of himself in many ways. I'm not saying I wasn't enjoying the fact that he was making a fool of himself. I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to work with him if I was in the game per se, but socially, I do not think that he played better than anybody else in this episode. Maybe Bruce, but not by a large margin.
Yeah, just to give someone that's just so as not to repeat the same person, I will, and I love you, Bruce. Yeah, hey, rewind to earlier in this podcast. I was defending you, buddy. I'm gonna say Bruce. It has to be said. And I think, he won. Don't shake your head, David. Rewind, Bruce. I was on your side. I think I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Rewind. I gotta give it to Bruce. Even though he won immunity, I think that's a big factor in why he is driving the struggle bus, because he had to. He had to win immunity. Jake, look, we talked about it. To no credit of his own, he was saved. I don't think that it was his social skills that got him saved. But Bruce, if he had not won immunity, I do believe would have been out of this game, or would have had to use his idol to save himself, which is just as utility driven. It is not driven on his social skills and his soft skills that are not trinkets and utility, right? And so I love you, Bruce. You're fantastic. And frankly, I'd love to meet you at some sort of Survivor outing at some point because I think you're fantastic. However, my friend, this episode, I don't think that you were at your most gracious. And I think, you know, even when you have people running around really trying their hardest, finding the tubes for the auction, and you're walking and being like a bit of like a peasant, like it's not a good look. People don't want to reward that at the end of a game, or even in an immediate sense to allow you to go further in the game. I don't think that was a good look. And, you know, it's tough to, outside of Jake, if I want to not put Jake on a double jeopardy here, I think that Bruce is the only other person that I think that I can stick in the sewers with Jake down there. He is driving the struggle bus.
I can't disagree with you. As much as I want to, there is an overwhelming amount of support for that award. And it's funny because if you think back to the beginning of the season, you think back to Emily being the odd one out because she called Bruce out and we're like, oh, it's Bruce. We got to defend Bruce. He's our guy. And we think about how the tables have turned and now Emily's in a good position and Bruce is the guy, which of course, I mean, as a returning player, it's not particularly surprising that he is a person who's sticking out, but he's sticking out for reasons that we didn't think that he would. But I think it's really interesting because when you're a returning player in any capacity, you are going to be set apart, right? And people usually think that's for a strategic reason because you've got strategic acumen, you've got knowledge that the other players don't have. But I think back to, and I know we've talked about Guatemala a lot on this podcast, but I'm going to bring it up again. Stephanie LaGrossa comes back for Guatemala. She is perceived so differently. She is seen as a villain. She is seen as self-interested and sort of greedy and opportunistic and, you know, doesn't let Lydia see her estranged brother who she hasn't seen for X number of years, like does not paint her in a very good light. And it's interesting, and I'd like to do like a really deep dive at some point into the ways in which returning players are set aside socially from other contestants, because it's not the way that we think it is originally, at least from my perspective. It's not like, oh, they're a big threat, we got to always worry about them. It's like, it's easier to put them aside as like a different group and create an us versus them mentality when it's sort of your cast and then someone else that's sort of a part of your cast that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or am I just,
no,
you know?
No, that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. And I think it's interesting. Like, I think that can even be bridged to like non half newbie, half returnee seasons. Think about Winners at War, man. Think about the way that Wendell was edited on Ghost Island. Dom was the asshole. Wendell was the gracious, kind-hearted, more lighthearted sort of counterpart to Dom, who was able to get the win in the end. Wendell's edit in Winners at War was awful. Like, he looked like a jerk. And whether it was true or not, it's interesting to see that, like, yeah, people are more dynamic than just, you know, hey, this is the Reddit the first time, this is going to be the Reddit the next time. Like, and to me, like, it's actually more interesting than anything else. Like, I don't think that it's, like, I'm not sitting around being like, oh, man, well, I hate Wendell now because, like, he obviously is a bad guy now. Like, no, he's just in a completely different circumstances. One where he is, you know, it's, you know, he's against all winners and he sort of has to be a little bit more cutthroat. And for what it's worth, he was out there with someone that he kicked it with. So it's harder to sort of, you know, keep his glory than when he was with all newbies. And maybe he was able to sort of navigate differently inherently because of that. Shoot, I would love to see a future season where we see like a Carolyn villain arc. And it's simply because of like a different mesh of people and she has to operate differently. Once again, inherently, that's how it goes. David around a bunch of his closest friends from childhood is going to be different than David playing an org where everyone's against him, you know? You're going to get different types, you know?
Never experienced that. I've never experienced that before.
Surely. But, you know, it's, so yes, I completely agree with you, but I don't even necessarily think that it's like a newbie, half newbie, you know, oh, you know, newbies claiming their season versus people who are returning. I think it's just like when you return, you're in completely different circumstances, and you will adapt as such. And that adaptation can look really good on you, or it can look really terrible on you.
Yeah, it
It all
depends on a
depends on
variety of
yourself.
factors. What mental state you're going into, what the
Totally.
cast of people are like. The dynamics are going to be so vastly different. But, that's what I love about this game, and that's what always keeps it interesting, right?
Thank you for saying that, because that's what I was going to sort of put the button on. This is why this is one of the greatest games that has ever existed ever. There is not one way to win, right? I think, look, 8 out of 10 times over, Cassidy might have won a season against Gabler with a different jury. But with that particular jury, they wanted Gabler. It's what it is, And I don't want to get into the reason why that happened, but I do think that there was a lot of salt on those jury members, and there was a lot of in jury house talks where I think it was led. Some of the loudest voices did not love Cassidy.
And you
For
know what?
reasons go ahead.
They're allowed to feel that way. And I know you feel that way, Phil. And I know you understand where I'm coming from, but this is a
Yes.
PSA for everyone who thinks that every jury has to be strategic and every
No.
jury has to vote based on a track record or
You
be
don't.
super objective. The jury can do whatever the hell they want to. And if they want to do it just because that's how they're feeling that day, then so freaking be it.
Exactly.
And that is still a valid win. Sucks to suck. Get over it.
That's the game. And it's beautiful. Seriously, that is what I love about this game. It really is. I'm so happy that we think the same on that. Seriously, I do see people, one of my buddies, and it's a shame. I put him on a Survivor, and he's watching all these old school seasons, and he's, I think the big one was, Russell versus Sandra. He's like, how the hell did Sandra win? Whatever. He's complaining to me. I go, dude, guess what? Sandra understood the ethos of that jury. She understood better than Russell. I don't care about who played a harder game throughout. We get it, dude. Russell played the hardest game in both of his seasons. And kudos to him for that. But guess what? He was a jerk, and he did not understand that that jury, the two juries that he worked with, were not going to reward a jerk. And so those people that beat him deserves to beat him. So yes, I love that, man. Yes. Yes. Is that a good button? Should we end it here?
Absolutely. And it comes back to the social element. So on that note, thank you all so much for listening to Survivor Social. Make sure to follow us on Spotify and YouTube and Instagram. Send us a message and follow us at Survivor Socialites at Instagram, and email us at survivorsocialpod@gmail.com. And we will catch you next week. Thank you so much.